My doctor prescribed me Ozempic. I never filled it, and instead I took that money and put it towards counseling. And I started testing whether I could get the same results I would get on a GLP-1, but do so naturally. So welcome today from my backyard. It's a nice rainy day in the PNW here. You might hear a lot of birds in the audio. They're the migratory birds. They're kind of flying through the area right now. They're super cool. They don't tell me when they're coming, so yeah, it'll be extra music for us if you hear them. So I'd like to start the video by saying that the last few years were really rough for me. I actually lost my sister. Without getting too heavy, she passed away at 46 of a heart condition that nobody knew that she had. We were very, very close. That was really tough. And I had some health issues myself, and I gained some weight from those health issues. And then my other sister, my other older sister, she actually had some really bad health issues herself. And for a while there, I wasn't sure what was going to happen to her. And I was really worried about it. And I got really sick and stressed out from the whole situation with my sister. And I dropped 15 pounds from stress. And it was wild how much the crisis kind of shocked me out of things. And at that point, I decided that I wanted to do something about my own health, because the genes are not good up in this house. And part of that, because I'm in a new area, I had to get a new primary care provider. And we were talking about how I could pivot off this 15-pound stress weight loss, which was not necessarily the healthy way. I just couldn't eat. I was just so stressed out. I could not eat. Like, food tasted miserable to me. I couldn't sleep. I wasn't feeling well. Just the fear of it all, you know, like, am I gonna lose another sister? Am I gonna die young? All of that. So we talked about how I wanted to pivot it into something healthy. And she said that, you know, there's a role for GLP-1 here, that I'd be a really good candidate if I wanted to do that. She got the prescription ready. She sent it out for me and everything. And I was really tempted. I'll tell you, I'm not anti-medication at all, by any means. I think that if better living through chemistry is available, you should go for it. You know, there's no shame in it at all. But I'm actually kind of fascinated by how these drugs work. So my brother-in-law had lost over 100 pounds. He looks fantastic. He'd done it with GLP-1. My mother is on GLP-1. One of my best friend's mothers is also on GLP-1, and another one of my best friends is on GLP-1. So I have it all through my network. And, you know, it'd been a year or two that people in my life had been kind of getting on it. You know, it's been trending more and more. And because of that, I've learned a lot about how they eat, how the drugs work. And I got really nerdy and fascinated about this concept of like food noise and what's happening hormonally, how the drugs slow digestion, how they change your hormones. And I thought, what if I could mimic that behaviorally somehow? So I come from a background, originally I was a psych researcher, so I'm trained in the scientific method. This is a little different than that. There's not like I have a control or anything, but, you know, enough to be like, can we science this out? Can we do an experiment? I was actually really inspired. There was a blog way back in the day, and I'll see if I can find it, but shout out to Almost Gastric Bypass, which was something that kind of inspired me back in the day. It was just a little blog way back in the day where the blogger, he was a big guy and he was trying to lose a lot of weight. And he would have qualified for gastric bypass, but what he did was that he didn't have the gastric bypass. He didn't have the actual surgery. He just went on the diet. And it was pretty extreme. You know, I was reading it with great interest because I was in a point where I was going to lose a lot of weight. And I was just fascinated by the premise. So I think at the time he'd eat like 500 calories. It was all lean protein. It wasn't very much. It was like an incredibly small amount of food. I knew I didn't want to replicate this because this was really extreme and it just was kind of miserable. And also I want to say he wasn't in counseling at the same time. And a lot of people who do the gastric bypass also see a nutritionist. They get the behavioral counseling, all of that. So it was very let go and let Godzilla, right? Just like, wow, we're gonna do like a crazy thing. And I followed this guy. I followed him with great interest. And I remember he did lose a lot of weight and he was fine. I should check and see how he did later, but I read him voraciously for like 6 months or so before I went on my own diet. But I actually had a really good success with a diet I did that was not what he was doing, but it kind of showed me that I could be a little bit more extreme than I thought, and it would still work out, and I could still be healthy, and it did. I lost over 160 pounds. My blood work was amazing. My health was great. I actually was jogging at my lowest weight. Met my current husband when I was a skinny mini. He was a bigger guy. I actually helped him get down lower. I regained a little bit of the weight, but I kept most of it off for years and years until my sister died, the pandemic. I had a health issue. I had to get a hysterectomy, if you were curious what the health issue was. And with the hormones that I was on for that, because I was on some hormones prior because I had been having some really bad issues that had caused me to have to do that. So between all of that, I gained a lot of weight. Didn't really think about it until this other situation with my sister having liver failures. Now I gotta like take the weight back off. Okay, so let's talk about what I am doing this time with almost GLP-1, the experiments. Because there's a lot that's going on with the GLP-1 shot that I can't actually replicate one for one, so I had to be kind of creative here. You know, there's a lot that happens hormonally with hunger and satiety that literally the shot will change it and make you get full a little easier and get hungry a little less often. It'll slow your digestion down, and it does something really incredible where it helps with a phenomenon called food noise. I'll tell you, I'm not an expert here. This is just all that I've read from my friends and online and everything, but the food noise thing is so cool. Food noise is that constant mental chatter you get around eating. Food noise is kind of like intrusive thoughts, right? If you ever heard of those. Stuff like, oh, what should I eat next? Did I eat too much? I could really go for something salty or sweet right now. You know, that kind of thing. It's not physical hunger, okay? It's not that growling in your belly, the acid, like all the really deep hunger cues. It's the reward system in your brain craving the stimulation that food brings. And that system runs on dopamine. Every time you eat, especially sugary, fatty, or highly processed foods, your brain releases dopamine. And over time, your brain can start chasing that hit, even when you're not hungry. And it makes food feel really loud if you're somebody who has a lot of food noise, if you have that dopamine wiring in your brain. And one of the working theories right now is that a lot of the people who end up larger are more predisposed to hearing that food noise, to having a lot of it naturally, to having that dopamine cycle. There's always part of my brain planning, negotiating, or obsessing about food. So the GLP-1 agonists, your Ozempic, your Wegovy, your Mounjaro, all those ones, they mimic a natural gut hormone called glucagon-like peptide 1. GLP-1. And that hormone does a few things simultaneously. It slows the stomach emptying so that food stays in your stomach longer so you can feel fuller for hours. It signals to the hypothalamus, the appetite center in your brain, that you're satisfied, reducing the hunger signal and increasing the I'm done signal in your body, all those chemicals that do that. And it influences dopamine in the reward system. So it doesn't eliminate pleasure from eating, but it blunts the constant drive for the next food reward. So it kind of quiets the food noise, okay? So I kind of had to figure out what would work. So this is what I've laid out. The first big thing is that I'm focusing on high protein, high fiber meals whenever possible. Very protein centric. There are a few different reasons for this. One of the big things is that of the major macronutrients, calorie for calorie, protein tends to be the most satisfying. You also need it. If you're going calorie restricted, you only have so many calories to work with. Carbs and fats need to come after protein because protein builds parts of your body. It's important that you have enough so you don't lose muscle as you're trying to lose fat. You gotta prioritize your protein. High fiber is helpful. Most Americans do not get enough fiber, and unless you go out of your way for it, sometimes you're not gonna just find it naturally when you're just eating random food, whatever happens to show up. Also, fiber tends to slow the gut motility. It slows the food down. So it kind of does a baby effect of what the GLP-1 stuff does. I am also kind of doing the intuitive eating thing where I'm doing the smaller portions, the smaller plates. That worked really well for me, judging my hunger. I went and I mathed out my TDEE, total daily energy expenditure, for someone my age. I'm in my 40s. I will tell you my weight here in a little bit for my age, my gender, my height, my weight, and my level of exercise. I have kind of come up with a budget for myself, really realistically between 14 and 1800 calories a day, so 1600-ish. I have set a minimum of 1200 calories per day. I try to get at least that. I try to get between 80 and 120 grams of protein a day for myself. Really 100 is when I feel good. If I have a day where I'm at 80, I leave it alone. Basically, as long as I've eaten 1200 calories, 100 grams of protein, and 25 grams of fiber, I tell myself, you've had enough for the day. Like, I don't cut myself off there, but if I'm not hungry, which there have been days where I'm not hungry beyond that, then I don't force myself to eat 1600 or 1800. So there are a couple of different ways that you can achieve a lower calorie eating. Part of my reducing food noise has been intermittent fasting. So if you're not aware, intermittent fasting is a style of eating where you take breaks from eating, honestly. In my case, I fast 18 hours a day and I eat 6 hours a day. So I do not eat anything from when I wake up till about 4 p.m. and I cut myself off at 10 o'clock at night. I don't break my fast till 4 o'clock. I don't eat breakfast, I don't eat lunch. Now for me, this is great. It actually reduces food noise a lot. When I'm working and I'm doing my regular everyday routine, I don't even think about food. I focus on work. I even work out, believe it or not. I don't get dizzy, I'm fine. For me, it works great. It reduces the number of meals I have to plan. I can talk about some of the meal planning stuff I've done later, but we have a lot of healthy ready meal stuff that we do during the week that's really basic. And I'm getting out there and I'm moving a lot more. I have an exercise routine I'm doing. I'm gradually upping it as my body allows. It's been great. When I started this, I could barely move without back pain. So the fact that I regularly have days where I walk 5 miles or I do an hour aerobic dance, that's awesome for me. I know other people have other things they're doing, but you know, that's what's working for me. And I'm sure that I will up it as I go. Like I said, at my lowest weight before, I was a jogger. Okay, so let's talk about how it's been going so far. It's only been a couple of months. I started this journey post my 15-pound stress weight loss. When I first started this intentional eating, I weighed 340 pounds. I know, it's quite heavy, I understand. So at my first weigh-in, I was 340 pounds. It's quite a bit, I know, but you know, everybody's a different place. It's scary to tell people that, but yeah, I weighed 340 pounds. At my last weigh-in, which was a little while ago, a couple weeks ago, I weighed 306 pounds. And the time between these two weigh-ins was about 2 months. So I lost 34 pounds in 2 months. After that initial 1 month period where I lost 15 pounds from stress, this is in addition to that. I lost the 34 pounds just doing this, at least. I actually haven't weighed for a couple of weeks. We're trying to space it out more as we go along. When we first started, we were weighing more frequently, just to make sure it was working, to make sure that, you know, the calorie deficits were doing something, because we felt good, but we wanted to make sure, because sometimes you think you're eating a certain amount. I've been tracking and weighing my food, keeping an eye on it like a hawk, but sometimes things get away from you. I don't know, we were doing our best, but we wanted to make sure, we wanted to have the science down. And as we're going along, we're weighing ourselves less, because I find that it's helpful to weigh every couple of weeks, because those water weight fluctuations from hormonal stuff and salt, it can really get you down. After you know you have proof of concept, you can kind of space it out. So I'll be curious to see what the next weigh-in is, because I actually measured myself, and since that last weigh-in where I was down 34 pounds, since then I have lost 2 inches on my waist and 3 on my hips. I know, because I was measuring stuff, because my clothes were fitting kind of weird. I have a lot of fashion I've been trying to do as I go along. I've been getting new clothes because I've been in an RV for 2 years and had very little to wear, basically no closet. And also my husband, because I used to weigh too much back in the day and make myself crazy, he has it so the app on his phone is how we weigh, so I can't actually weigh myself without him doing it. True story. The other thing that I did notice the last time I weighed, and I was really happy about this, it's one of those body composition scales, and even though I'd lost a good amount last time I weighed, my lean mass had gone up. I'd actually built muscle mass and lost fat. Now, take it with a grain of salt, because those body comp scales can be here or there, but typically they're good as far as the direction, maybe not the size of the difference. That tends to get wibbly wobbly, but they can kind of tell if you're getting leaner versus fatter and all that good stuff. So the weight I'm losing is fat. And I seem to be doing a good thing with the protein targets. So in some future videos, I'm gonna keep documenting my journey here. I'll let you guys know how much I lose when I weigh. I can show you what I'm eating, some of the hacks I've found, things that make it easier for me if you like. I know everybody's weight loss journey is different. Stuff that works for my body isn't gonna work for yours, and I get that, and that's healthy, but I found some really cool tricks and things that make it easier for myself. And yeah, it's going really well. I'm going to be seeing my doctor here for a follow-up. My husband had gone originally with high blood pressure, and his high blood pressure issue is resolved within just a couple of months because of the working out and the eating right. So I am happy simply for that. Another thing I did at the same time is I quit all alcohol. I wasn't a big drinker, but I drank a little bit. I also quit caffeine, believe it or not. And that sounds pretty extreme, but with my husband's blood pressure issues, I wanted to be supportive of him. I'm a big coffee drinker, so I could not believe I did that. You know, I wanted to be supportive of him, and I also wanted to test what's happening with my blood sugar. I'm not diabetic, but I'm a big girl, and a lot of stuff that happens with blood sugar, I wanted to be able to do some more science and some tests and see how artificial sweeteners and caffeine was affecting my blood sugar. So quitting was part of that. I wanted to get to a clean slate on both of those things. So yeah, so far so good. You know, here's the thing. I always reserve the right to go on GLP-1 eventually. You know, if I need it, if it's not working out, if my doctor thinks it's a good idea after all this. But I've been very pleased with the results I've had so far, just doing it this way, and I'm excited to continue. It was a little rough the first week or two, but I'm having a blast now. It's gotten easier and easier as I'm going on. I don't feel deprived. It was hardest in the beginning just to transition over because I still had some of those feelings. That food noise was still kind of bothering me. It does help to not have that window where I just can't eat, like it's a done deal, you know? And I also found that we found a lot of foods that would work for us, and basically came together with some shortcuts for meal prepping and meals we could cook that would be stuff we liked, that would fill us up, that would be healthy for us. Anyway, I started doing this at 340 pounds. 2 months later, I was 306. And more importantly, I'm calmer, less obsessed with food, and I'm able to move more. I'm feeling in control, I'm feeling healthier. I'm having fun. So yeah, I have some other stuff I might do. Let me know if you want to see some of my hauls. It's been interesting because I've been trying to buy nice clothes for myself but not overspend because I'm shrinking out of them. Actually, the dress I have on right now, I can show you guys, I have a belt around it because it's too big around the waist already. I just got it. But yeah, I'll keep updating and letting you guys know what's happening as I weigh in, as I discover stuff. I think it'd be fun. I've been kind of nervous to talk about this in public because weight loss and diet can be such a personal topic. Everybody has an opinion on it. I'm big, so there's a lot of shame that people are like, oh, how'd you let yourself get so big? You know, whatever. It is what it is, right? Figuring it out. I do not judge people for their size, and I just want to be happy and healthy, and I want to live as long as possible. But yeah, I will be updating. I'll come up with other stuff. But this is just the first intro video. It's been cool. It's been cool. I got lots of stuff to say. Very, very science-y. But yeah, this is working. Anyway, it's been great talking to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.